Thank you so much for listening to another episode of CX Chronicles Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Brady-Cesana. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the CX Chronicles Podcast. Super excited for today's show, guys. We have an awesome guest. Maxime Marchand, Senior Director of Product Management at GoTo, is joining us. Max, say hello to the CX Nation, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me, and hello, everyone.
100%. So number one, Max, just for listeners, where are you working out of today, my friend? Where in the world are you working out, or which GoTo office are you in today, my friend?
Yes, I'm based in the GoTo Montreal office.
Nice. Montreal. It's a town that I absolutely love. As you and I were joking about the other day, when I was in college, I used to get to go up to Montreal for some of our weekends, and we'd see some Canadiens games, and we'd maybe enjoy some beers at the age of 18, where
Exactly.
we weren't able to do right down in our wonderful country. So I love that town, man. It's a great city.
It's a party town, yeah.
So Max, number one, super appreciative of you being on the show. Really excited to dive back into our conversations from last week, but let's start off like we start off all these episodes, my friend. Why don't you take a few minutes to kind of set the stage, right? So you guys do a lot of different things at GoTo, and you and your team do a lot of the wrangling and the management, the product management that comes together to really do some incredible things on the tech side of GoTo. But spend a couple minutes just to kind of set the stage and give our audience a sense for who you are, where you came from, and what were some of the things that brought you to where you are today as a senior director of product management at a company like GoTo.
Okay, perfect. Actually, I'll maybe start right from the beginning, and that's going to lead into what we do at GoTo, because I do think there's somewhat of an interesting story there. So I'm basically, I started from the technology side. So I'm an engineer at the core. I have my bachelor in computer engineering from McGill University, and I was a bit lucky in the sense that my very first internship at Ericsson in the research and innovation group was in 2011. And in 2011, there's a bit of a change in the technology landscape of the telco industry that took place with a new technology called WebRTC. So when I started off at Ericsson, my task was to build pretty much the first WebRTC application that was also matching the Rich Communication Suite spec. It was called that at the time for RCS, in basically an experimental browser that the Ericsson lab team had done. So I was lucky because this was for the very first time taking, let's say, customer experience, which was traditionally only telephone calls for businesses, and trying to expand that to full application and making it available from their mobile apps, from their web browsers. Essentially, we're even having this call right now on a WebRTC application. So I did this for 5 years at Ericsson. And at that time, I switched to a startup, and I say startup that is called Jive, that became GoTo Connect today. It was a pretty well-structured company, but my task at Jive was to bring all that knowledge I had from Ericsson and build our first soft phone application.
That's awesome. That's huge.
In the UCaaS space at the time, it was really businesses trying to move from a physical phone sitting, in their offices, and bring this to different applications so that it can still serve customers when they're home, when they're traveling. They want to be able to, get additional channels of communications with their customers. And I launched that first product that is now called GoTo Connect, as we got acquired a bit later. So I worked at Jive for a bit. And then in 2018, we became public when LogMeIn acquired Jive. And a few years later, we got acquired once more by a private equity, which rebranded the company GoTo. So GoTo is somewhat of a portfolio of products, but my product specifically was bring all the UCaaS world with the collaboration world of GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar, and we created this new GoTo Connect product. And I was very fortunate to jump into the product side of the,
Absolutely, yeah.
When we got acquired, my main task was, okay, we need to merge all those channels together. We need to create a single application that has all communication channels, can serve customers the best way possible. And that's when I stepped in as a product owner. And since then, I took over everything that has to do with our app experiences, our platform, and all that jazz.
That's so number one. That's amazing. And guys, for our listeners, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but GoTo encompasses a number of different products, right? So GoTo Connect, Log Me In. Log Me In was, I mean, every one of us has used Log Me In. GoTo Webinar, Grasshopper. There's a
Mhm.
bunch of tools. So perfect way to kind of tee us up into somebody had to kind of come in over time as the business grew, as there was acquisitions, as there was different, pieces of product and technology coming together. Someone had to kind of take the lead in terms of thinking about how to, like you just said, bring them all together, number one, but number two, just understand how to make this new larger entity of GoTo moving forward be able to give their customers almost every different type of walk of how customers are interacting with it. So it's super duper cool. Um, a question in terms of when you started off in your career, you mentioned at Ericsson, you were in a software engineer role.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, absolutely.
and then even when you start, as you mentioned, when you started at Jive and in the beginning of your GoTo chapter, still software engineering. So like I'd love to on the last several episodes, there's been more and more conversation around. We talk all the time in the show about voice of customer, right? What are all the different things that are happening with you? But you know what's funny? We've had a couple really cool guests recently that are similar to you, my friend, more on the product side, engineering side, the building side, and this notion of voice of builder or voice of engineer continues to come up more. And so I'm excited to kind of delve into that a little bit as you get into the four
Yeah.
pillars. But it's really interesting. So many of our guests are typically thinking about customer experience on a high level. Really interesting when we get some of our product and our tech friends that come on the show, and they can speak to it in a different type of lens. They can speak to it in a different type of way, and then more importantly, they're the ones that are oftentimes trying to figure out how to do one of the most complex parts, which is bring all these different technologies together, bring all these arguably these different customer and user bases, right? Some of those companies had different customer portfolios. They had to bring them into one. So must have been a really, really fun endeavor, but must have been pretty challenging, my friend, to say the least, Max.
Very frustrating as well. So, typically we always, start, especially once you're on the product side, you want to start from actual customer problems, and then maybe technology will address those problems. And that's typically speaking the right way to approach it. When you're, working as a software engineer with those major telecom carriers or operators, it was pretty interesting because even in 2011, you could tell that that technology was awesome. Like I remember all those websites that were mainly like Flash based, right? You go on a website and you want to have video, you have to
Yeah,
download
I remember that.
Flash, and super
Yeah.
annoying. You couldn't have anything that was video based when on the go. So we had this technology, and you really tell that, hey, this is going to impact the world in a very like positive way. We just need to get it to market and build like the best customer experience possible. But those things require a lot of, let's say, adoption from multiple parties, and that takes a lot of time. And only nowadays, like almost 15 years later, is something like RCS about to make it widestream and really impact the way businesses interact with their customers. Like 15 years later, from us working in prototypes all the way to getting something like truly to market across the board.
Yep. I mean, it's a really good point. People forget about this. Is like everybody thinks about like the overnight success story for not only people and some of the folks we've had on the show, but like companies or what you just said, what you made me think about, entire technology sets. So like this is stuff that we think about now, and you're right, Max. This is taking years, man, for there to be true market adoption, and then the need, and then on top of it, AI. And I know we're going to get into AI as we jump into the pillars, but like AI has changed everything, frankly, in terms of like, CXC, we've been almost joking around like our four pillars had to get lifted right up, almost like lifting up a house, and AI foundation had to get slid right below because for every
Right.
pillar, all of us have to think about how we can leverage it now. But
I actually, on that point, I actually think a lot of companies will almost be caught off guard with this transformation because it took
absolutely, Max,
a couple
totally
of
agree.
years, and it took almost a decade to go from just serving customers from either walk-ins or just a phone to now serving customers over digital channels. Like, okay, now there's emails, WhatsApp,
Yep.
social media type
Yep.
trend. And then AI is coming along, and that transformation is not going to take a decade. It's going to be like super quick.
Totally
So
agree.
uh, it's the pace of changes that is really accelerating right now.
100%. And for our listeners, I'm sorry, I probably said this in the last couple episodes, Max. I'd take it a step further, man. I've been, have the luxury and the fortune of talking to some incredibly smart, experienced people like yourself, running some customer experience in some of the biggest companies, on planet Earth. I think that with AI, as I talk to more and more and more people, and obviously for the last year of episodes, we've been plugging in the AI conversation. And some people, it's funny, some of our guests, they can go on and on and on because they've already been talking about it, thinking about it, planning for it, mapping for it, hiring for it, investing in it for years and years. So they're already ready to go. And then there's other folks that kind of will skirt past it because, like, maybe they're in an industry or vertical where it's not extremely relevant today. But like what you just said, I would take it a step further. The more of these conversations I have, I think that we're going to see another Pareto-like split in the workplace, where I would make a guess that in the next 3 to 5 years, not to your point, not 10, but in the next 3 to 5 years, I think we're going to see 20% of the best and the brightest and the most eager to learn, and then let's call it as the most flexible professionals across all these different type of employment cuts, whether they're doctors, lawyers, attorneys, CXers like us, operative people. I think that there's going to be 20% of every one of those camps that ultimately within the next 3 to 5 years, because right now, or they've already been learning how to leverage AI, learning which AI solutions can, for lack of a better term to put it simply, help accelerate their craft or help them do way more with less. I think we're going to see something like that, man. So it's good. And then now you bring some of the technology that we're about to jump into and talk about, that GoTo's building. It kind of makes sense where like the technology's been there and it's been, more and more and more things have been coming out. Utilization's a little bit different of a situation. Now we're entering this world with AI where tomorrow's leaders, man, they're going to be the guys and gals that understand exactly how to leverage and utilize these things. And then much of the performance and the output that they do, it's going to be based on some of the things that we're going to talk about today, right? AI, tools, technology. So with that being said, I'd love to just jump into the first pillar. Max, I'd love spend maybe a couple minutes talking about GoTo and the team. I'd love for you to lay out like just the lay of the land for like the team that you're working with at GoTo today and sort of how the GoTo team has been built.
Okay, yeah. So I work on a product called GoTo Connect. GoTo Connect is basically GoTo's UCC main product, which serves, let's say, the SMB buyer or the distributed enterprise type buyer. So think about, let's say, franchisees with multiple different rooftops, like car dealership networks. These are the types of customers that we have, or even retail healthcare clinics or hospital networks, pretty much. And we've structured that product to really, really be the best at, a handful of seats all the way to a few thousand seats. So we're not necessarily aiming to have, massive single roof enterprise type customers. And we structure it mainly via persona. So we're thinking about building the best experience for some key decision makers or key users within that product. So we have, of course, the IT admin persona, often the buyer of UCC type solutions in companies, right? Most employees
Yep,
joining a company, they have no say if they're using Microsoft Teams or Slack,
that's
or if they're
absolutely
using
right.
this tool or this tool. So the IT buyer is very important for us, and we have one team dedicated to think about the admin
And
persona.
Max, and then so IT buyers, the types of roles, be specific with. So what are like the common roles on the ICP set that you're going after? It's literally directors, vice presidents of IT. Is there other roles? Is there other people that are other terms or role type names that you guys are talking to try to get
Well,
awareness and consideration?
that's a bit interesting in the sense that as you go down market, the IT role is often just like a hat someone wears, depending on the day.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's why I asked it because with some smaller companies, it could be a bunch of different people that just get tasked with, hey, by the
of
way,
course, yeah,
Sarah,
absolutely.
you're going to go manage the tech stack for us. And it's like, oh, really? I'm in an operative role. So I understand that this could be, but like, it's a different type of awareness. It's a different type of experience. It's a different type of thing to kind of know how to even have conversations like what you're talking about.
Yeah, actually, let me take through an example of how we need to think about different personas when building the product, right? So if we're thinking about a very small company, it could be just a business owner that acts as the IT admin and just set up everything for their employees. Then as you go more towards like, mid-range type of companies, maybe something like a dental clinic, the dentist does not want to set all the IT stuff. So they'll do with like external partners that specialize in launching dental clinics, in which case our persona is a bit the administrators or even in those partners. And then as we go more up market, then those companies will have dedicated IT departments with multiple staff that handle support cases, need to really operate and know what's going on in the system, look at the quality of the calls, of the messages, and so on. So it's really like an evolution of users. And then even within those, there's what we call different maturity level. It's very possible that a small company really, really cares about providing like the best experience possible across the board, and they want to know all the reporting, they want to get the analytics, just like it's possible for a big company to not necessarily care about that sort of thing. So it's really a mix and match, let's say.
Yep, no, it makes a ton of sense, and it's funny too because like one of the big even at CXC Max, I'm going to share the story real quick. We it's funny, even small companies. And then you mentioned like talking to the business owner, for example, or there's one person wearing one of the hats. It's so common for like just a few years into growing your business, right? If you get through the first year, good. That's like your first milestone. You get through the second year, great. That's like you get through the third, fourth year. Now starting to it's looking like that business is going to work. But even at that level, even when a small business gets to like their first 3 to 5 years, maybe they were even only working on their first million or a couple $1 million of annual revenue, how fast the tech stack, number
Yeah.
one, grows. And guilty as charged. So like right now, one of the things that me and my team have been doing at CXC, we are number one, we do a bunch of different tech stack utilization assessments for our clients. But we're in the process right now of slimming down. Even a small business like CXC, we had gotten up without even really realizing it to 17 or 18 tools. Now, to some of our listeners, that might not sound like a lot because Max, what like a GoTo? We'll get into this into the tool section, but like a big company like GoTo, probably a much higher number. But my point is just like it's amazing how fast tech can grow, which also means your cost grows, which then also means complexity of being able to have people like you or some of the folks in your team X that can actually start to like make sure all these things are connected and speaking to each other so that there is a singular view. It's wild. It's just wild
Yep.
that we're in this time where like there it's super duper easy to start running into almost tech overusage or overconsumption or overbuying. And then the utilization piece is a different story. This is something still that I think a lot of companies are trying to get better at, trying to think about. And this is one of the big things that GoTo can offer the right types of customers, where that can help with simplification and it can help with streamlining and it can help with having one tool that otherwise would have had to. And then to your point, over the last 10 years, there might have been 5, 6, 7, 8 tools to do what GoTo could do. It's just interesting that we keep hearing this theme again and again and again.
Yeah, I'll just, I guess, finish how we're structured because it matches exactly what you just said, Adrian. So on one hand, we have the admin, which is a bit the starter. On the other extreme, we have the contact center team, which is for the most mature type customers if they're using channels outside of voice even. And we have a team really thinking about supervisors, agents, really the teams that care about optimizing businesses output. And my team is responsible for the entire platform and all the end users. So we're thinking here, like my team is really responsible for the millions of users of the product itself. Like there's billions of calls being made, every year, billions of minutes. So we need to make sure that the core product, all the users are well served. And that's the challenge because we serve many, many different industries, and each industry has different requirements, different integrations that they need. Different CRMs, and the three pieces together, this is what really creates our CX vision, what we often now recently call the OCP vision of the product.
I love that, Max. And real quick, just to guys, take a look at GoTo's website and take a look at their LinkedIn. But like, Max, you have over 2,500 people, as per on LinkedIn right now, that are coming together every single day to do what you just said with serving the billions of minutes or hours, or sorry, did you say minutes or hours?
Billions of billions of minutes of called minutes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, oh, sorry. And then just the other thing too is the complexity of the multi-channel stuff, man. All these different channels coming together, that's not easy, right? There's got to be a big army of people that are helping to manage that type of volume. Max, awesome. I'd love to jump into the second pillar of tools, and we're going here anyway. But like, I'm going to ask this question, and you answer it how you can best answer. But like, you already talked about a big part of your role in your time at GoTo has been really managing all of these different tools coming together. During your time there, has there been can you talk a little bit about either the technology or the primary tech solutions that you and your team really built GoTo upon? And then I'd love for you to obviously spend a little bit of time kind of talking about some of the primary tools that your customers are getting just incredible experiences and benefit from using on the GoTo technology side every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. So really the challenge in general is to not build a product that is multi-channel, right? It's easy to build a product that is multi-channel in the sense, okay, I can click phone, I can click message, I can click something else, and then you fall into different applications and just communicate with your customers in different ways. What we're aspiring to build is truly an omni-channel product. And that's why I'm quickly mention the OCP term without even defining it, but it's the omni-channel conversational platform, which is a bit the evolution of CX, as CX is a bit of a difficult term to say for the acronym, right? CX as a service. So the first part of thinking about omni-channel for us is really, why do customers even care about blending channels together? There needs to be some benefit for not only our customers, but our customers' customers as well. I can maybe go into a bit of a use case a bit later, but mainly the way we approach it is anytime a customer reaches a business, doesn't matter if it's via a text or social media channel or a phone call, but we can take the phone call first. We want to make sure, okay, is there anything that we can do blending channels that really will enhance this experience? So a good example of that could be that if you miss the call, of course, a SMS should be sent back to the caller saying, hey, sorry, we've missed your calls for your business. We'll be back in touch in just a few minutes. Because for a small business, that little customer experience is really the difference between being a detractor if you're not getting
100%.
acknowledged
Yep.
versus like, you know what, I trust this. If I
Yep.
have an emergency because my pet is sick and I'm calling a vet clinic, I want to get acknowledged on the spot, else I'm going to call the next clinic.
Absolutely. Right to the next one in line. Yep.
Next one. So there's that first layer of like, we need to always make sure customers are acknowledged on their channel of choice and really want to make sure that they're not detractors. The secondary aspect is the flexibility that omni-channel can bring. And this, we've seen some crazy, interesting use case, even from our users that we didn't expect, right? I'll have customers, that they'll create a dial plan in their phone system. And then if you want to track your order, like track, let's say your pizza, you press 1, it sends you a link to their apps. You download the app and then you can track your pizza via the app, right? There's all kinds of things like that you can do to enrich the customer experience by having a omni-channel type solution that really starts blending stuff together.
And Max, just to add to that really quick, stop and think what Max just said here. No longer is it just the Domino's and the Little Caesars of the world that can start to do that type of customer experience stuff right here with all the. You could be one of the biggest pizza places in Buffalo, New York, and maybe you have 3 or 4 shops. And there's now tools that you can literally go to do exactly what Max just said to make sure that, like, that's cool. That's a customer, like, not everybody might care about. Some of our customers might not care about watching a track. People that are in their second and their third decades that are used to Uber and Airbnb and Amazon, where we're used to watching everything come to our freaking door. That's pretty cool. Like, that's a differentiator. You're going to might spend a little bit more on that pizza from that place that has that type of stuff.
I was going to mention a bit this later, but this is even a demographic change taking place and a market change. So the younger generation actually do like to communicate with businesses on voice channel. That might change with AI, but as a young person, I might want to be using WhatsApp or SMS to get served for the business, and I don't want necessarily to have to call in and wait or anything like that. So already there, if you want to make sure that you're serving the latest generation, Gen X, Gen Y, and so on, you need to start thinking about really reaching those customers where they're at on their preferred channel.
100%, man, 100%. Before we jump off of tools, you're in an interesting role, my friend, because you're literally thinking about product management on a daily basis, right? And people forget product management is just like, number one, it's an extremely difficult part of the business because you're focused on the planning efforts, right? You got to know all the things that are coming on the horizon. You're thinking about developing, right? There's going to be stuff that you're working on right now that isn't even ready to go yet. So there's going to be some of your team thinking about development or figuring out how the hell this stuff's going to work. Then you got launching, right? Then the whole art, I would argue, the art of launching different products or launching new features or launching, and that's internal and external, man, right? You guys are a big company, so you got to probably educate the GoTo team internally, and then if you do your job well, Max, right? Then whether it's that sales team or that customer success team, they go out to the millions of customers you guys have, and then they're helping to educate on the list. So anyway, it's a super complex space. I guess one of the questions I have is like, for our listeners, many of these folks are going to be the folks that are thinking about building incredible customer experiences and or managing and or just generally helping to author the evolution of their customer experiences. What would be the one big suggestion or tip that you would have for some of the smaller folks that maybe they don't have the luxury of having a product manager yet? They don't have somebody that has this ability and this time and this focus of doing all the things that I just said. And by the way, there's many more. We would know there's more. But what would be like the one tip that you'd have for maybe some of our startup founders or some of our smaller business owners that are listening right now? How can they get started with thinking about product? When to your point, we've talked about it a couple times, like the business owner that's wearing a thousand different hats. What could be like the one tip for how an easy way
Yeah.
that small businesses can start getting some form of their playbook built for starting to
Right.
think about product management as it relates to building incredible customer experiences?
This is a bit of the bane of our existence. We have dedicated teams on the enablement side, right? To take even like, we're about to make a release and that chain of the product is ready all the way to the support team knows what to do, how to sell it, and so on. We have a full team dedicated to that stuff. But I have a couple of tips in general, because I think on the product side, we often slap ourselves when we don't follow that principle that human nature, you don't go read all those support articles, you don't go see necessarily all the what's new stuff. Very few people actually take the time to go educate themselves on what has just been released within a product. So making that new feature, that new release, extremely discoverable by its own, or really focusing on the activation piece of that feature, like almost like a in-product onboarding flow. Every time we don't do it, we regret it. So I would say that the product itself needs
Yeah,
to be really, really, really discoverable and self-activation. Like that's just fundamental. Often, we're using a specific product. I don't go click on what's new and try to educate myself. So that's just the reality
totally,
of
totally
of
agree.
product.
I love it. So, Max, so let's jump into the third pillar process, and this one is, as you and I were chatting last week. This is a question that's kind of evolved as we've gotten deeper into the show because, like, what when I ask guests, like, talk about how Max or how GoTo thinks about process, I'll be a little bit more clear. I think that we are in this world now where like coming up with content or coming up with playbooks or coming up with how to's, to your point, just what you said a second ago about FAQs, whether they're used or they're not, is getting really easy thanks to our little buddy AI. But here's the thing. What when we were talking the other day, and then when you kind of even just setting the stage earlier in the episode about the time that you spent at Ericsson and then all of this stuff that you've seen over these last 10 years at GoTo with like all of these different businesses moving, coming and going and having to put things together. How have you kind of, as you get deeper into your career, how have you sort of built your playbook, your living playbook, Max's playbook around like, and then selfishly, like, I mean, the way that you think about how you're going to lead your team, the way that you think about which tools you're going to care about, and you're going to make it very clear to your team, these are the tools that we care about. Feedback is something that we'll get into in a second, but like, how have you kind of built your own playbook over all these years, or especially seeing all of these different things and different companies coming together? Spend a minute or two just kind of talking about process and kind of talking about what you sort of learned along your journey for why process is super duper important, although maybe the least sexy, why it is important as some of the glue or the rebarb inside of building a customer experience or an incredible customer experience.
Okay, actually, maybe there's going to be a couple of things to chime in on this. It's going to be a bit spread apart, but at the end of the day, the big role of the product manager in my role is really to create organizational alignment, right? Like my job is to make sure that my managers and all the staff under those managers are really truly aligned on the same objective and that we don't dive. So we have a couple of core principles around that front. We organize ourselves in our process around major teams of work. You can almost think about them like a bucket of work that multiple initiatives will be backing those major teams. And the core, let's say, the way we need to think about this is at the end of the day, all the staff needs to be aligned on those teams, and we want to be moving really quickly. So speed and alignment and focus is what is needed. So we stack rank all the major teams of like, this is what is the most important for the product. That's what's going to yield the best customer experience for our users, the user experience for customers. And we really like stack rank all those teams. Then the team know always, okay, which one has the priority. So they always work in that order, and we really focus and move fast on those. So for us, it's more about, again, speed, alignment, and true focus of the work. And when you do those things, you can make some mistakes, you can have some errors, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But overall, the organizational velocity will be such that we can actually compete with much bigger companies than ours and still deliver great experience for our users.
I love that, Max. I love that. And guys, I want you to hit pause and rewind back and listen to what Max just said right there, because it's spot on. Some of the best companies and some of the best guests that we've had on the CXChronicles podcast talking about this, they talk about, Max, exactly what you just said, being able to move fast, being able to be clear about prioritizations. People have to know which direction if they're the captain of a boat and you're running a Navy and you got 100 boats, every captain on the boat has to understand which direction the commander, the general, the primary general, or the king wants, or the king or the queen wants them to go in. And then there's another thing here, which is, having really clear expectations. And guys, I don't care if your business is 5 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, 50,000 people, but what Max just said makes me immediately think about also being really crisp and clear on making people accountable, responsible, but then you have to give them the authority. So Max, to get that velocity that you just talked about, man, you got to have accountability. Is just like, here you go, this is yours. You're going to run with it, and I'm going to step in when I need to, but I want you to run with it. Responsibility is very, very clearly like these are the confines, the priorities that you just mentioned. This is the most important. This is the least important. And the last thing is the responsibility, accountability, and authority. Having the authority to go do the damn thing, right? This is where that's where people can really. And then I guess what I've learned is the more companies that we worked with at CXC, that's what A players are going to command. That's what future A players and A, whether they're in developers, salespeople, marketers, operative people, they want to be able to just kind of rip. They want to get their mandate, get their assignment, and go rip. Right?
Actually, there's probably even two things we should double down on this conversation. So the way we kind of structure those teams and initiatives, there's always a trio owning the work. So by trio, I mean there's always an engineering lead, a UX lead, and then a product lead. And they're the ones accountable for the success and for the outcomes of each of those teams. And in the context of a world where we're building more and more AI type features, and even the technology landscape of AI is changing, we believe that speed is probably the most important factor in this. Like when the landscape is changing, you're probably not going to get the right answer, and maybe what's right today is going to be wrong tomorrow. So overall, speed is what's most important for adaptability and make sure that you're following the market trends. And even
100% agree with that, Max. 100% agree. And then we can thank companies like Amazon and the likes of those types of companies that are we just literally the tap of a button. Boom, here you go, Max. Here you go. Here's your thing. Oh, by the way, it's on your, here you go. You want to track it? It's right. So you're right. It's like the speed part is something that all of us have to think about. Max, I'd love to jump into the fourth and the final pillar of feedback. So number one, I'd love to kind of hear what are because you're in a unique position where normally when I ask this question to guests, we ask, talk about the way that you guys kind of do your customer feedback. How do you collect it? What do you do with it? And then how do you act upon it? And then we'll ask the same thing on the employee side. With you, this is a trifecta question. So I'd love for you to maybe one example of the ways that GoTo today is really doing a phenomenal job of managing their customer feedback. Maybe one example of the way that you on your team, Max, are getting the voice of the builder, as I jokingly was calling it earlier. And then lastly, the employee side, which is kind of a dual one. But I'd love for you to spend a couple of minutes just kind of talking about how you think about feedback at GoTo.
Okay, yeah, there's multiple ways. So on our apps, there's the clear, obvious way that there's the App Store reviews is a big part of the feedback we receive. We have in-app reviews and in-app surveys, so we'll measure the product NPS, CS scores for how difficult it is to use, overall OSAT, and we have all those surveys built in our different product like web, desktop, mobile. we have a public feedback forum as well. So a community of the product where you can go in, you log in and you can ask questions. You're getting also like live support and from everyone else, both other users and staff. So that forum plus the feedback tools already there. There's quite a bit you can do there. Then there's the first line of service. We have customer success managers. We have partner success managers as well. We have support teams, and all the larger customers will get dedicated service. So they have their monthly, let's say, sync with their rep, and they can chime in and provide feedback directly to those reps, which then brings back that feedback to the product team. And we also do this from the support side as well, looking at all the conversations. And of course, we're using AI tools to gather all that feedback. So if there's a call to support, that all gets transcribed and we get the summary of those calls so we can act upon it. So that's all the classic type of feedback. But then GoTo, we sell both direct and via channel partners, right? So it's also important for us to get the feedback from those resellers that might be integrating our product with their product.
Absolutely.
Like it's typical for a CRM to integrate all their features within their CRM tools, and then they'll have feedback as well. So all our major integration partners and overall partners, we will have periodic interviews with them, just getting how they're doing, what they need, and then we have the list of feedback from them as well. And that's another set of ways we can actually build the right product. But what's a bit more challenging in general is not getting our immediate customers' feedback, but it's getting the feedback from our customers. Like that is not something that is typical to do in most companies. So we often get this from secondhand. So I might have, for example, a healthcare clinic doing telemedicine that says, hey, your join screen to join my sessions. My customers are very old patients, like 80, 85 years old. And that font is a bit weird for them. Like they can't see it. Can you edit that font? Right?
Max, you should see my dad try to get on a Zoom call, man.
So we will get indirect feedback this way with those types of partners when we have a bit like extreme type of users that can take place, because at the end of the day we do serve millions of end users, so it's kind of difficult to really have always a clear picture of like our customers if that's that. Then on the employee side, for feedback, then there's multiple different tools as well that takes place with this. We have internal surveys that are done periodically as well for companies. We always do team retros and feedback sessions. So each team will be doing their almost like sprint or Kanban retros. And then at the more leadership side, we'll have quarterly retros of how we did on the quarter, how we should rethink our processes, what goes well, what can be improved, what goes wrong and we should stop doing. So a classic feedback loop on that front.
Max, those are excellent though, man. Those are excellent. Like, so guys, this is another area that if you're thinking about, man, how do I get more feedback from my early customer base? Literally click pause and go back and listen to Max. Because Max, what I just heard right there, that's an extremely mature CX feedback component that you just ripped through. You talked about, you just did everything. You've got, there's everything there. You've got community, you've got your
it doesn't stop there. So how do you access this feedback? How do you share this with everyone? And since the latest introductions of like AI models, all that feedback gets sent in almost, you think about it like a database. And then we use Slack internally instead of Teams. But in those different Slack channels, you can ask a question around, let's say, all the customer interview feedback. So you can say, hey, what our customers are saying about this HubSpot integration that we just launched. And then you can get all, the feedback.
That's amazing.
And you can do this across multiple different channels for different types of topics. And anyone can really start getting a sense of what our customers are saying, what our partners are saying. And it's pretty useful to have as a tool to categorize everything using AI.
100%. And then theoretically, in that type of a situation, and that's like literally what all of us should be building towards. But every day, every week, every month, every quarter of business and customer communication sets that go along with that time, you're getting a deeper, broader, more crystallized view over time of what people are saying, what they like, what they don't like. On the EX side, think of my brain is just firing in terms of all these different possibilities for people want to show up to work and they want to be educated. They don't want to show up to work and not know how to do their job. So like then on the EX side, you're collecting and amassing all of this wealth of information that the employees can use to go better serve their customers or to do better in their own regard. So all incredible things here. Max, this has been absolutely fantastic, my friend. Before we wrap up, number one, where can people get in touch with you or GoTo that listen to today's episode and want to learn more about some of the incredible things that you guys are doing at GoTo today?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, of course, or directly to my GoTo email, which is maxime.marchand with a D at goto.com, or even on our GoTo website. If they want to learn more about the GoTo Connect product, it's goto.com/connect. And then there's multiple ways to get in touch with someone from sales, and they'll be happy to point you in the right direction. But overall, we have a lot of content online on our website.
I love it, Max. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, my friend. Thank you for joining the CXChronicles podcast, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Adrian. Oh, should we do this?
Be sure to check out the CXC website, and as always, find us on any of your favorite podcast players, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and more.